Okay, we good. Testing 1 2 1 2. Okay, shalom to Israel. Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Barakathum to all the brothers. Yahweh Shema Alathon, Bahashem Yahweh Shai to all the sisters. And what we said to the brothers was, may the Most High bless you in the name of Christ. What we said to the sisters was, may the Most High watch over you in the name of Christ. Okay? We are the Isupk, the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge, started out of 1 West, 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commanding General Yohana. And the Isupk has been teaching the truth of the Bible since 1969. We are the home of the truth. And that truth includes the fact that so-called blacks, so-called Hispanics, and so-called Native Indians or First Nation people are the true Israelites, the true Jews, God's chosen people of the Bible. The Bible itself bears witness to that. Okay? It is the truth. You understand? And we in the Isupk is the home of the truth. Okay? We're not affiliated with any other Hebrew Israelite group or sect, Salakia. We stand on our own merit. And like I said, we're the home of the truth. If you're not in Isupk and the Commander General Yohana, you're simply not in the truth. Okay? Hey, shalom to everybody. I'm Officer of 1,000, Yanazar, and I'll be teaching the class today. And today, of course, is Friday, the Lashawan Qadash. Excuse my handwriting. I'm having a little issue with my back, so I can't really reach up real high. Lashawan Qadash, or Hebrew language, the holy tongue. Okay, the holy tongue, Lashawan Qadash, the Hebrew. So, I've done my research about the language itself and how important it is. Of course, it is important. You understand, the language is very important to understand the impact of the language on the people that speaks the language. So the Lashawan Qadash, or more commonly known as the ancient Hebrew or the Hebrew language, of course, is a very ancient language, which we're going to prove here today. It goes all the way back to before Abraham. It goes all the way back to Shem and all the way back to Adam, because it's the language that was passed on from generation unbroken, according to the Bible. So I'm going to get some scriptures together that prove that, because we're going to do a little history of the Hebrew language, and then we're going to get into some vocabulary words. Okay? So the first scripture I want you to bring out is Genesis chapter 11 and verse 10. Okay? So we're going to get a little history lesson here with the Lashawan Qadash, or the Hebrew tongue, the holy tongue. You got that?
Come on.
Read it.
It's the book of Genesis, chapter 11, verse 10. These are the generations of Shem.
So this is the bloodline of Shem, the first son of Noah. Okay? So now from this point on, it gives you the bloodline of Shem, right? But we're not going to go through the whole bloodline. We're going to skip several generations up into a certain point. But I just wanted to use that particular scripture to show where the bloodline stems from. After Noah and the ark, it was Noah, 3 sons, and their wives, 8 people. Okay? And from those people, all the people of the earth come from all those people, those 8 people. Okay? So is that it on that?
Law, sir.
Read on.
Come. Shem was 100 years old and begat Arphax.
So Shem begat a son named Arphax, right? So now, read verse, 12?
Come.
Read on.
And Arphax lived 530 years and begat Salah.
So he begat a son named Salah, right? So this is a bloodline that's going to lead us all the way to Abraham through a man named Eber. So this is where we're going to focus on right now. Go to verse 14.
Okay. And Salah lived 30 years and begat Eber.
So Salah, you understand, who's the grandson of Shem, he begats a son who's the great grandson of Shem named Eber. Eber in the Hebrew is Ibar. Ibar Ibar. From him comes the language, and the word Hebrew stems from this man. And also this bloodline leads to Abraham, right? So where did we leave off? That was verse what? 14?
Come.
Give me verse 16 and 17.
Come. Verse 16. And Eber.
So now there's a man, Eber, his son is named Peleg, right? Peleg is the son of Eber. So now, if you read carefully, you see now the bloodline is going to flow through Eber. You understand? Eber is the main character in the bloodline, in the direction of the bloodline, because Eber is the progenitor of the Hebrews. Okay? Read on.
Come. Verse 17. And Eber lived after he begat Peleg 430 years and begat sons and daughters.
So Eber begat sons and daughters. So from Eber, directly from Shem, is Eber. So this bloodline moving forward belongs to Eber. You understand? And this bloodline leads all the way to Abraham. You understand? Which we're gonna get. Okay? So now, for time's sake, we don't want to spend our whole day on this. Give me Genesis 14 and 13. So remember, this is the bloodline of Abraham from a man named Eber, right? So from this point in Genesis 11 and 17 is a bloodline from Eber all the way to Abraham. And so we're going to skip through all of that because we have to go through generation, and we're going to get Genesis 14 and read that.
Okay. It's book of Genesis, chapter 14, verse 13. And there came one that had escaped and told Abram, the Hebrew.
Abram becomes Abraham. Abram becomes Abraham, the Hebrew. And to my recollection in my studies, this is the first mention of the word Hebrew in the Bible. Read it again from the top.
Come, this book of Genesis, chapter 14, verse 13. And there came one that had escaped and told Abram, the Hebrew.
You understand? Because what had happened was like there was like a little war, and they killed some Abraham people. And one of the people that was working for Abraham escaped and told Abraham about it. But we're not going to get into that story because we're able to trace our language all the way back to Abraham, all the way back to Shem. That's the point. The Hebrew language is, of course, what they call Shemitic language, not Semitic, Shemitic. His name wasn't Sem. His name was Shem. Okay? And he begot a man. His grandson was a man named Eber. And his great-grandson was a man named Abram, who was later called Abraham. Okay? And that's the beginning of the Hebrew language and the Hebrew culture being, you understand, revealed in the Bible. In the book of Genesis, right? Okay. So now, excuse the the technical difficulties here, Okay. Just bear with us. Okay, so the Bible in itself, the Old Testament, stems from documents called the Masoretic text. This is a text that was written in Hebrew, and they say it was first published in the 11th century in the 1046, somewhere around there. But there's other sources that say that it goes all the way back to the Babylonian Empire, because Salakia, the Babylonian Empire, because in Babylon, you understand what I'm saying, Israel was in captivity, and it was very difficult to maintain the culture in Babylon. But these brothers, these rabbis, was what they say in the research. They call them rabbis. They created something called the Masoretic text, and from that text, it was translated into English by 47 scholars under King James, who authorized their work into what we call the King James version of the Bible, which was translated directly out of the Hebrew in the Masoretic text. Okay, so now the New Testament was translated into English from what is called the from the Textus Receptus, which was written in Greek and translated into English at the same time they were translating the Hebrew under the authority of King James, the 47 scholars that knew Hebrew and Greek, and they translated the Masoretic text into an English version authorized by King James, which everybody on earth knows is the most accurate version of the Bible. And further proof of that is in 1947, they found what was called the Dead Sea Scrolls, or the Scrolls of Qumran, which was a cave near the Dead Sea where our ancestors, because of the persecution of the Romans and the Greeks, hid scrolls in clay jars, and the scrolls were made of copper and other materials, and some of them was papyrus. And they were able to survive thousands of years in those caves. You understand? And when they were deciphered and when they were chemically treated so that they could be unfolded and read, because they were scrolls rolled up, it matched with the King James Version. Even though those scriptures were older than the Masoretic text. So what that says is that the Masoretic text was correct. And also you got to look at the spiritual aspect of it, and that the Most High, of course, is going to guard his word and make sure that it's published correctly. Understand? So we have the correct version, or the nearest to being perfectly correct version of the Bible, in the King James Version. You understand? So a little more history on the Hebrew language, because the Hebrew language which we're going to prove now, it was natively spoken by the Israelites and remained in regular use as a first language until around 200 AD, 200 years after Christ, meaning that it was the main language of the Jews even during the Roman and Greek captivities. You understand? It still remained a functional language. Okay? Now, but because of the dispersal of God's chosen people, Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians, by the time of around 300 AD, you understand, it became a non-functional language, meaning that it survived in little pockets here and there, but it was basically almost extinct as a functional language, because we're dispersed into so many languages and so many cultures that the Hebrew, it could barely survive. You understand? And then the language was revived in the 19th century by the so-called Jewish man. However, his revival of the language, because of he didn't have a direct connection to the language, was based on his tongue that he spoke. And so the pronunciation was changed because of the addition of vowels. They added vowels, and our language is what we call a Abjad language, which is a group of languages that has no vowels, only consonants. So our language, the Lashawan Qadash, Salakia, is a Abjad. Salakia is deep. Oh, Abjad language. It means a language without vowels, without vowels. You know, several Semitic languages are Abjad, not having vowels. Okay, meaning that you don't need a vowel to make a syllable. That's basically what it means. Whereas in English, you need a consonant and a vowel to make a syllable. Okay? So the language experienced what they call a full-scale revival, which simply means that they're putting a lot of effort in bringing that language into functional use, right? Into functional use. However, they didn't have the proper pronunciation, and being that these people in the 19th century were Europeans, mostly of Eastern European descent, they used pronunciations and mixed it with Hebrew. They used their language's pronunciations and mixed it with Hebrew and created what is known throughout the earth as Yiddish. Yiddish, a combination of European pronunciation with Hebrew letters. What's the matter? We wasn't live?
No, no, the Durham.
Oh, really? I thought I hit the two. Okay, well, sign Christ, the water. So, you got it? The water. Well, sign Christ. Salakia for that. The brother told me we weren't live on the Durham station, Durham Israelites, which I thought I hit. Okay.